Hello, everybody. Good morning. Few tech on track. So, hi, I'm Rita Hickman, body mind expert, massage therapist, and I help women in toxic and narcissistic relationships really get this in the middle of a long-term relationship, able to get questions that a lot of women are not going to end up in another narcissist relationship, because usually what will is we'll have something, in our past, and then we'll see a series of types of people that, you end up attracted to or in a relationship with. And you wonder, how did this happen? How did this happen to me? And sometimes what'll happen is, you kind of live a sort of life and it's fine and it's nice. And then, somebody gets behind your defenses. Somebody gets behind all of the walls. And it's not even about what they're doing. It's that you end up emotionally hijacked by yourself, by your own body, by your own reactions and responses, by your own almost feeling of helplessness that you have to, that something catastrophic will happen if you leave or whenever they attack you. One of the worst parts of being in toxic relationships is not even the other person. One of the worst parts is feeling like you are out of control of you. And for me, that was always one of the biggest problems, that I'd be in all of these stressful situations and everybody else would be fine, but my body internally would be reacting. It would be, on a 20 on a 0 to 10 scale. Even things like just, going out to dinner or spending time with friends or having people come over, my anxiety level would be through the roof. And it would be me that was making things difficult for me. It was my chemicals. It was my emotions and trauma that would keep me stuck, keep me in the same patterns, not actually anything that anybody else was doing per se. So what does that have to do with being targeted by a narcissist? So if we look at someone, here's a couple interesting facts or points. When we look at somebody who is in crisis, and in actuality, someone who is a narcissist, they're behaving, not all people who are in crisis behave as narcissists, but the more crisis that you're in internally, the more narcissistically you'll behave, because you really have to look out for yourself, to make sure that you're not going to die. It's a whole fight or flight thing. And so narcissists are typically internally under a high level of trauma and emotion and vulnerability and insecurity. And when people are in crisis like that internally, even if nobody else can see it, even if they're completely charming and wonderful and amazing and, and they behave that way towards everybody else, but to you that they're nuts, they show you what's really going on inside of them. When people are that in crisis, they have a much higher ability to recognize people who will be nice to them. They're able to recognize people that will be compassionate and sympathetic and empathic. And they have a heightened ability. When someone is in crisis, they have a heightened ability to really discern out the nicest people in the crowd. So in many ways, if you're empathic, if you're kind, if you're flexible, if you're curious, if you are a healer type, if you want to help other people, narcissists can see that on you. They can see that you're going to be the person that will help them in their mind, that will rescue them or save them, or finally someone who, will do everything that they want. we tend to look at narcissists as, in general society, we tend to look at narcissists as, evil psycho or sociopaths. And some of them are, down on that spectrum, and they need very specific help. But many people who are in relationships, aren't quite that far down the road, but they're still very emotionally narcissistic and cruel and unkind and insensitive. But that's because they are living through this internal level of anxiety and trauma and depression and mood swings and chemical imbalances and fight or flight on a regular basis. And when we look at people from that lens, we're able to better navigate. When we look at an enemy and we don't know anything about the enemy, their family or their friends or how they really think inside, then we're helpless. We're helpless to what's going on. Many women that I work with, they were naive, because they were raised to be nice girls. They were naive about how people can be very emotionally narcissistic like that. They didn't realize it could go to that extreme. Maybe in their life there was some neglect, or they were one of many children, or their parents had gone through trauma and were narcissists, and of course then would take it out on them. But they didn't realize maybe the level, how common it can be, and that there are people out there that are like that, that really they're struggling so hard that they don't care about anybody else but themselves. And it's that naivete, that not recognizing that people like that are out there, coupled with the desire to be helpful, the desire to be compassionate and caring and empathic, and the desire to be a good woman, someone who's kind, someone who's exactly opposite of the people who, were unkind to you maybe when you were a child, or your parents, the exact opposite. Or maybe you were trained, it was brainwashed into your head that nice women are seen but not heard. Nice women are always nice. Nice women don't get angry. Nice women don't tell things to people that they don't want to hear. Maybe you were brainwashed into that. But the whole thing is that there's a dynamic. A narcissist has the ability to see people who will be kind and who will give them more than anybody else will, who are on the side of the spectrum of kindness and compassion and empathy. So yes, in many, many, many ways, narcissists target you, the nice, compassionate, kind, flexible, the you that you wanted to be. You always wanted to be kind. You always wanted to be generous. They target you. And it's frustrating when all the qualities that you valued most are many of the same qualities which then brought in the narcissist into your life. So how do you stop being a target? Well, you don't have to suddenly become somebody who punches everybody in the face. You don't have to suddenly become somebody who is unkind or cruel or insensitive. But there's a couple pieces you have to think about. One of the things that got in my way is I looked at everybody as if they had gone through my experience, as if they had been a small female, constantly overshadowed by everybody else, under that feeling of threat and anxiety, and all of that, that pressure actually caused me to become a nicer person, because it would push me to never be like those people ever again, never be like the people who bullied me or were insensitive or inflexible. And it pushed me to be very, very kind and to be this higher version of love and light, like, all the religions say and all the personal growth stuff says, be tolerant, be forgiving, be flexible, give more than you want to. And those are all amazing qualities. However, those are also the qualities which, that's only half of love. The other half of love is tough love. Because not everybody was, a 4-year-old traumatized little girl. They had different experiences. They have different tools. They have different ways of dealing with life and dealing with things in their life. And because they do, they're not going to be, when you speak your truth, it's not going to have the same effect. It's not going to devastate them. One of the things that would always confuse me is when my dad and I would have conflict. And for me, the conflict totally knocked me on my butt. And for my dad, the conflict, it energized him because he won, because he was able to overpower somebody, because, because of the testosterone, because of the back and forth. And to them, they can just go right on with their day. They have the conflict and they go right on with their day. Whereas I would be, on the ground, hiding and crying and shaking and all of that because my nervous system was off the rails from the confrontation. So you have to realize that the experience that you have in different situations is different from the experience that other people have. And you can't look at them and say, well, you're supposed to be just like me. And this is where tough love comes in. When you love somebody, you don't just look at what you want to give them. You don't just look at what you think you're supposed to give them. You actually give them what they need. And what they need is someone who says, I'm not allowing you to treat me this way. Someone who says, I care enough about you that I'm going to give you difficult experiences where you're upset and unhappy, where you aren't the winner, where you don't succeed, so that you can start to get an idea, get some compassion and empathy for what it's like. I'm going to be as stable and happy and smart and balanced as I possibly can. And that's tough love. It doesn't even mean that you ever talk to them again. But what it does is it makes an impact. When you love somebody, you don't just look at what you want to be for them. You look at who they are. And narcissists do not need more flexible, understanding, doormat sort of love. What they actually need is love that says, enough. I'm not doing this. This is unacceptable. We're not going through this. Just as if someone were a high schooler or a middle schooler and they were behaving in such a crazy off the hook way. Tough love says, I'm going to be part of the reason that you learned that you can't treat people this way, that it's not acceptable. Because once they become adults, once, as you well know, adult narcissists are off the hook because they've got all of this power. They've got all of this ability and experiences, and their brain doesn't, shape as well. So when you care about people, it's actually in their best interest to do things which are healthy for you. And the healthier you get, it's an opportunity for the people around you, including the people who struggle with narcissism. It's an opportunity for them to step up, and if nothing else, to be a role model for how to treat other people, for how you need to treat people if you want to have relationships with them. So how do you stop being a target? You stop being a target by recognizing that there are people like this out there. It's not everybody, but there are people out there. And sometimes people are on the fence. And when you are too flexible, when you're too understanding, when you're too compassionate to their needs, it doesn't, it brings out the bully in other people. It brings out the parts of themselves that they might not want to show. So in order to stop being a target, you need to start taking better care of yourself. You need to feel good. You need to recognize that these people exist and that some people hide it very well. You need to keep an eye out and give people, grow relationships slowly, and give them, have experiences so that you can see how they respond. Give it a little bit of time to see how they deal with conflict or anger or when they don't get their way or when something goes wrong. If you allow your relationship to grow at a slow pace, where you see how they deal with different things, you keep going, taking steps towards intimacy. When you do it that way, one, it helps teach the person, if they have those bully tendencies, it helps them keep it under control. And if they are a full-blown narcissist, you will find out. They won't be able to maintain it indefinitely. Something will happen. They'll be tired. They'll have a bad day. And what this does for you is it keeps you from becoming too emotionally attached. Because we're coming back around to the beginning of this. The biggest challenge is not the narcissist. The biggest challenge is your reaction, your internal reaction, mentally, emotionally, and physically, and spiritually, to the narcissists. Once you get that handled, once you're able to work through that healing process and get the things that you need to be balanced and stable, then the narcissist isn't able to control you anymore, because it's not about them. It's about you and your wounds and getting your needs met. And when that happens, the narcissist either evolves with you, or they'll leave. But you, either way, you'll be fine with it. You'll be like, okay, if you're willing to evolve, then these are the requirements. And if you're not willing to evolve, then these are my boundaries. Boundaries aren't for other people. Boundaries are for what you're willing to accept, what you want to have in your life. It's not about trying to stop somebody from doing something that will just make them want to do it more. Boundaries are you saying to you, I'm not going to betray myself anymore. These are the experiences I want to have. These are the experiences I don't want to have. And this is how I'm going to handle them. When I'm having an experience I don't want to have, I'm going to do A, B, C. And when I am having an experience I want to have, I'm going to encourage it and support it. So, yes, if you have a relationship with a narcissist or they targeted you, maybe not consciously, but out of their own internal struggle, they could tell that you would be someone who would be flexible and compassionate and give them what they needed to try to fill that empty black hole they have inside. If you're someone who takes time with relationships and allows them to develop and grow, and allows your emotions to develop and grow, piece by piece, step by step, then it will bring out the best in people. It will bring out their ability to have a good relationship, or they'll leave because you are not the person that they thought you were. You're not the person that they expected you to be. Because these patterns and habits that they have, they've been doing it a long time. It's their survival mechanisms, the same but different from when you were a kid and you had your survival mechanisms. And so narcissists will either leave, because you're not the person that they want, or if they're more on the fence, it will bring out the best in them, or if it's somebody who's healthy, somebody who knows how to have good relationships, they're going to be attracted to you. Because if you are in a good space, other people who also have healthy boundaries, who also have a healthy life, who also value themselves and respect themselves, they're going to want to be with you because you'll be in short supply. If you haven't looked around lately, people are under a lot of stress, and people's insecurities and wounds and emotional issues are coming to the forefront and controlling everything that they do. And so healthy people are in short supply. And if you're this, you can either be a beacon for a narcissist by being the nicest person on the planet, or you can be a beacon for other people who are looking for a healthy, good, meaningful relationship. So that's the targeting. You know, you have to start thinking about what you're putting out there. You have to start thinking about how your body reacts to stress and working through that and getting that stress dialed down, learning how to manage your emotions, learning what affects your emotions, and learning how to love yourself in a very good way. And it's not about being the nicest person you know, because nice people not only have that flexibility and that compassion, they also have that tough love. They teach everybody else around them what healthy people look like, how healthy people interact. We're dealing with many, many people in this world who are stunted emotionally, more than you probably could even imagine. And when you become an adult, when you become someone who has the ability to stand in that health and wisdom, you're not going to attract the narcissist because you're not going to be their target, and you will attract people who want to evolve, who want to have good, healthy relationships too, okay? So, yes, you were targeted, and no, you don't have to keep being targeted. And if you're worried about it, reach out. I've partnered with an author who has a book, on everything about narcissism. I do a weekly Facebook group and Zoom call with a small group of women. It's a private group that you can join. Or I do my daily live streams, as you can tell. Or I do one-on-one coaching. And if you want to do a strategic call to get, a game plan, don't worry about finances, don't worry about time. What we do is, we'll have a call, we'll sit down, we'll come up with a game plan, and give you the resources and the tools and the things that you need. And whether it's coaching with me, or whether it's seeing a psychologist, or whether it's doing stuff on your own, we'll work with it. We'll find a way to make it work, okay? So I think that's it for today. I hope you had a great day so far, and I hope the rest of your day is awesome. And I will talk to you later, okay? Bye.